And welcome to another podcast of Abundant Retirement with me, Tony Roberts. And as always, we're more than appreciative that you've decided to listen or possibly view us today on our many different venues that we have as far as listening and viewing happens to go with our podcast and the things that happen with all of the support that goes around that. I am not a technical person, so folks, when I'm trying to figure out what the heck all this stuff is
Spotify,
that
Apple
makes it work,
Podcasts,
you know what?
YouTube.
Flip a coin and I hope it
Yeah,
works for you.
we're
So that's the
there.
only thing I
Yeah,
know. That's the reason I got with me, as always, Mr. Tony Shore, because he
sure.
keeps me on track and trying to figure out how do we work this thing. But you
You
know
know
what?
what? You know what, Tony? It is we're in Halloween season, and listening to you try to describe where we're at and how the show's available, scary.
You know,
It's
that sounds a
scary.
little bit like Rod Serling, and I know probably half our listeners have no clue who that guy is either. So
Twilight Zone.
yeah.
Hopefully our listeners know Rod Sterling, the Twilight Zone. Yeah. But no, yeah, we are available everywhere, all the major podcasting sites. We're available on your website at arobertsassociates.com. Go to the show page. We're on YouTube. All you have to do is type in Abundant Retirement, Anthony Roberts or Tony Roberts. It'll bring you there, Tony Roberts. And thanks for tuning in. We're all over the place: Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, everywhere. You get your shows that you listen to and great financial advice. So, that said, Tony, what are you dressing up as for Halloween this year?
Oh my gosh, man. Oh my Hey,
Put you on the
you
spot.
I'm gonna give my pat answer to you, that I give to my wife when she
Okay,
starts talking to me about we've been invited to a Halloween party and
sure.
what we're gonna dress up as, and I just looked at her, I said, "I'm gonna dress up as a financial advisor. Is that okay?" And I just, I go as myself. How's that? And she just
The-
looks at me and she says, "You're not creative. You're not creative at all." And I'm like,
oh,
what can I say? Tony, it's crazy. My wife and we're not big Halloween people. I mean, we just never have been, but our daughters are just into it
yeah,
immensely. And I mean,
sure.
they will spend hours, I mean, going through the makeup and looking like somebody just, took a knife across their
Oh,
face and
jeepers.
did the whole kit and caboodle, man. It's
Wow.
crazy. It is absolutely crazy. And
Yeah,
one of them's dating this kid, and I like the two kids my girls are dating right now. I don't know if
sure,
they're going to be the ones or not, but I do like
sure.
them.
Yeah.
So anyway, she's trying to get him to paint himself white and go as Beetlejuice or something like that. And he looks
Oh,
at her like, he looks at her like, "Babe, I'll do anything." But deep down, you can just tell it's like, I don't bit more want to dress up like Beetlejuice than a man in the moon. So yeah, so I
that
don't
is
know.
funny. Well, what
I
I
don't know.
like, the reason I love Halloween because I love fall, but I love seeing the little kids, the trick or treaters,
Yeah,
and I love remembering when my kids were little and dressing,
yeah,
even babies dressing them up as a pumpkin,
yeah,
and pulling them around in a wagon to get some candy. I love seeing that in my neighborhood. We live in a pretty good neighborhood for trick or treating, so
yeah.
every year we have trick or treaters, and it's just that's kind of the fun part for me. I don't necessarily like the real scary stuff. I've never been into that stuff, horror or
Yeah.
dressing up or anything. My one daughter is just like your daughter, into the makeup and doing the full thing, but I just like the little kids dressing up. It's so cute, and plus I like the candy. There's
Oh,
always leftover candy, right?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
right?
And it's a part of it too. I'm so like you, Tony. When the little kids come around, and I'm a world's worst man. I don't just give one piece. It's just
Oh
like, hey,
yeah,
give
here
give them
take
give them 20 pieces. So I
take
want
a
these
handful.
kids to go back on a sugar high, baby. I want them bouncing off the walls for old mom and dad. So yeah, whatever.
You know what? One of my neighbors did. I thought it was really mean. Literally gave away, goldfish in little plastic bags.
Yeah,
He gave kids goldfish, live goldfish
Oh,
that
you're
they
talking about
took.
no, you're not talking about the cracker goldfish. You're talking about live goldfish.
I'm talking about a live
Oh
goldfish
my
in the
gosh.
water in a
Oh my
baggie.
gosh. No, if I there would be there would be parent protests going on in his front yard.
Oh, some parents in the
Oh my
neighborhood were mad.
gosh.
He
Can
did
you
it to
imagine?
people who, like, he wanted to poke at or whatever. He gave their kids goldfish. He goes, "I've got 10 goldfish. There's 10 kids tonight going home with
Oh
goldfish."
my
He
gosh.
went and bought them and
Oh,
got and I'm
wow.
like, they're gonna need a tank, fish food. Their kids are gonna wanna
Yeah.
keep that
Oh
goldfish.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's mean. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that's a mean thing to do to a parent, isn't it?
Oh my gosh. That's yeah. Wow.
A
I
live
can't imagine.
goldfish, can
I
you
can't imagine. I
imagine?
can't imagine either doing it or being on the receiving end.
Oh, I'd be so
Both of
mad.
those things are not good at
Yeah.
all. There's no
Yeah,
doubt about it.
yeah, somebody's taking a late night Halloween trip to the pet store or Walmart to get some fish food in a tank. That is not because you
Oh,
can't tell the kid he can't have the fish once he's got it,
yeah.
right?
Well,
I
you
mean,
might
you're
just have to
little
you might
5
just
or
say,
6-year-old kid.
you might just have to say, to your child, just like, "Hey, look, the fish has gotta have water. Let's put them in the toilet so they can live," and then you just have an oops moment. You have an oops moment, Tony, and,
Oh,
you hit
Tony,
that
that is evil.
you hit
That's like
the old, it's like, "Oops. Oh, I'm sorry.
it's like sending the family dog
We'll
to
get that fish replaced here very soon.
it's like
I
sending the
promise."
family dog to upstate New York. He's on a farm in upstate New York. That's the old joke,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
sending
I've
so,
yeah.
what happened to our dog? Oh, he went to
Yeah.
live on a farm. That's where
Wow, no
dogs
kidding.
go when they're old.
Who did that? Could they come to my neighborhood? I've got a few folks I'd like to maybe. Oh, I
Yeah.
got I mean, this thing's being recorded. I just got shut out at home, so I'm
Yeah.
in bed, man, now.
Yeah, you gotta watch it. Okay, so
Yeah,
you wanted to talk about what's the right amount to withdraw in retirement? And this is a big question people have because there's been a rule of thumb,
yeah,
that's been around for a long time, right?
yeah, yeah. And I think the rule of thumb has always been that you can sort of take about 4% of your portfolio out year over year, and that can be an income stream. And then we sort of had 2007, 8, and 9 when things maybe dipped down, when we had like 3 consecutive years of losses, and people said, maybe we can't do 4%. Maybe we got to do 2.5, 2 3/4. And
Mhm.
then you sort of hear some other people come back around and say, nah, it's really about 3.4, 3.5%. That's what you can look at. But at the end of the day, Tony, it all goes back again. And I sort of chose this subject today because this thing's hitting home with me right now. Alita and I are basically having a lot of conversations. I'm 65 years old. I still love this work. I still love doing it.
You
But
don't look a day over 50. I mean,
yeah,
that's
I
the
know it.
beauty of
But
that.
yeah, thank you. But sometimes I feel like I'm quite a bit over 50. But the joints just for some reason don't keep lubricated up quite as bad as they are as good as they used to. But we were having conversation about us,
Yeah.
and she's actually, I don't know if the word's concerned or not, but she wants to know, and rightfully so, about what do we have, what's the size of the business, if how much longer are you thinking about working, if you do step away, or if you step away completely, or do you gradually step away, you know where's the money going to come from, and then if we have somebody maybe buy us out down the road and we have a lump sum of money, then how much of that do we use to then live on, and does our lifestyle take a hit, and all of these things. And you know what, Tony, it's the same questions that we basically have to answer day in and day out for the people that we serve, who are our clients. And so, and sort of looking at this thing, I sort of said, you know what, this is something that everybody has concerns about. Um, the good news is that we're in a midst of a pretty bullish time in our life with the markets.
Yeah.
Outside of the momentary dip that we had with COVID in the spring of 2020. Uh, 2022 markets were down 18, 20, 22%. But since then, man, everything has been back up 20+% year over year, 23, 24, 25. So when you sit there and you say, well, Tony, our portfolio is returning 20% a year, and you're telling me we can only take out 4% and live on it. Again, you've got to sit down with whoever you're working with, whoever your advisor is, whoever the specialist is in your life, and say, yeah, we are up 20% this year, but do we take all of that out and go blow it or do whatever the heck we are and expect that's going to be the new norm? And that's just not the case, because again, Tony, 2022 will come around again.
Yep.
And that's going to be a time to where you sit there and say, hey, look, maybe we don't take anything out of our portfolio this year. And if we don't, where's the money going to come from, to
Good
pay the
point.
light bill, the water bill, and insurance and everything like that?
Yeah, you can't just
That
say I'm going to
happens.
withdraw 4% a year every year,
No,
and that's going to work out.
no.
Because, boy, a year like 2022 hits, like you said. I just remember both the stock market and the bond market
Yeah,
tanked that year.
sure.
We're down. I
Exactly
mean,
right.
for the year,
Yeah.
that was a very down year. Now
Yeah.
we've hit record highs the 2 years, the year before that. We're hitting record highs since, and that's great. But you've got to make sure that you're allocating properly. Maybe during those huge up years, you take some and put it in another vehicle that won't drop when the market goes down, and use that for income when the market's down. Is that what you're
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah. It's exactly what I'm saying. And because we just never know. I mean, Tony,
Right.
we had today is October the 20th, Monday, October the 20th. When I came down to record this podcast, I think the market was up the Dow was up almost 600 points today. But guess what? I also did an interview with a lady that had attended our federal employee retirement workshop last Thursday, and she's been furloughed. She's not getting a paycheck. She's 54 years old, and she doesn't know if she's going to go back to work or not. And she was making a sizable amount of income, and all of a sudden she might be back in the job market. Now, is she going to be able to find a new job? Is she going to be able to do something that she's been trained for within her career? Is she going to be able to still be able to make the same kind of money that she was making before these shakeups started going on with the government? She doesn't know, and she's 54 years old. And so part of what we're doing is putting together some models to sort of say, hey, look, let's see what this thing is going to look like over the next 5, 10, 20, 30, 40, even 50 years of having some idea that if you don't go back to work, if you go back to work in a lesser capacity with some other organization or whatever the case may be, what's it going to amount to? And then looking down the road and saying, okay, let's start pulling money out of our portfolio to replace income or live in retirement with an income that is somewhat near what we've become accustomed to as far as our living. Uh, these are the puzzles that we have to solve. And in those types of circumstances, you know, there's tough questions to be answered. And unfortunately, she's gotten put into, a catch-22 with this whole federal government thing, whether it be, the rifts, cut back in work, the shutdown, being laid off with no paycheck. These are real life situations, man. And it's a scenario of just sitting there saying, hey, look, whatever I've got, how do I utilize it? What happens with it? Um, the government, in my opinion, probably needs to come and say, hey, look, if you're going to put us in a position that I'm in my 50s and I've got to start dipping into my retirement portfolio because of what the government has done to me from a job situation, at least waive that 10% extra tax that they hit you with for taking out retirement funds prior to age 59 and a half. I mean, these are just all things that, it requires some grown-up people in the room making some grown-up decisions
Yeah.
on behalf of the American people, instead of on and playing the whole political thing that they have a
Yeah.
tendency to do up in DC. So,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Well, and of course it starts with what you can control. And one thing about that is if you work with a trusted financial professional, you can at least have a plan for your own situation, regardless of politics, and don't let your emotions play a part in it, right?
Oh, most definitely. So again, having a plan, seeing what that plan is, and again, maybe we stress test it up front and say, well, what if worst case scenarios happen? What does this thing look like? So those are the things that we all have to look into, and then going back to things that are going to, you know, reflect or attribute to what amounts of monies that you can take out and different things like that are different. Year to year market conditions, longevity risk. If you take early retirement, if you're forced into early retirement, what's your spending flexibility? Are you totally out of debt and all you have to worry about is just paying for the utilities and insurance and those fixed costs that go in year over year, no matter if you're in debt or out of debt? So again, taxes and fees are also part of those fixed costs that happen year over year. So these are the things that you have to have a game plan for regardless. And
Yeah.
it's so very important if it's sort of a similar situation to what I was just telling you about this young lady that we're talking with, being forced into having to make some very critical decisions
Yeah, that's
about
tough.
herself and her life and her family and things like that going forward. So again, these are critical issues. They're
Yeah.
critical times, and good, bad, or ugly, these times will pass and things will get back to normal. But when you're living it, and you know, you're doing all the things you're supposed to do, and all of a sudden
Yeah.
somebody sits there and says, "You know what? We're going to send you home, and we're not going to give you a paycheck for a certain amount of time."
Terrible. Yeah, they need to figure it out.
It's
Congress
just
needs
it's
to they
stupid.
yeah, and they shouldn't be able to take a break while this is going on. Congress.
No, what should happen is we should take their paychecks away
Yeah.
permanently.
Yeah. And
Permanently.
they should have to stay in Washington and meet every day all day and into the night until they come up with a solution.
Yeah, and make that solution also include term limits so we can get rid of them. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Am I making
Boy.
any friends and family on the show today, Tony?
Well, you're right. I don't think there's anyone who would disagree with the fact that Congress is on both sides of the aisle is really bad in this situation. So,
Yeah.
yeah, they got to get the government back open. But with that 4% rule, the longevity risk, the problem
Yeah.
is people. The good news is we're living longer. The bad news is
We're living
we're
longer.
living longer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So, and that plays a part in the 4% rule. Inflation plays a part in the 4% rule that can eat away at it. And you said taxes, fees. So, what are some alternatives out there that people can consider to the 4% rule if that's not going to work? There's some other things that you do with your clients, right? And you kind of alluded to it already. Have money in other your assets in things other than the market, right?
Well, one of the things that we look into, Tony, is we have some strategies out there that are actually reflective of the market, and they actually take whatever market returns are, and then they bump that up by 1.5, and that's your paycheck. So let's just say you were taking $2,000 a month out of this strategy, and the market, let's just say the S&P 500 returned 6% for the year. Then next year your paycheck would go up that 6% times 1.5 or 9%. So now, because the market returns 6%, my paycheck just went up 9%. So it's sort of got that built-in inflation hedge that's working for it,
Yeah.
and allows us to sort of get out in front of this thing to a certain degree, maybe take pressure off of your managed money portfolio for those 2022 years when the market's down 20%. Then guess what? We sort of leave that managed money portfolio alone, let it recover, and let the markets recover, so that we're not taking money out of a downturn, which is not good at all. So again, these are possible ways that you can increase your income, hedge against inflation, have an increasing income stream with part of your portfolio through instruments that are out there today. And those are some situations that we look. We've got some defined income portfolios that are offering 7, 9, 10% returns that can help with the inflation piece and this, that, and the other, to where the principal's protected, but yet we can get a very nice return off of it. Some what we call coupons and different things of that nature. So
Sure.
again, Tony, it's just sitting down with individuals, seeing what their needs are, trying to come up with a solution with strategies that are readily available to allow us to put this thing together and make it work, and then meet their needs. And those
Yeah.
needs have to be met not only this year, but next year, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, and going forward. Because uh, for the most part, people want to have an increase in income stream throughout retirement because it's going to cost more to live in the future than it costs to live today,
Sure.
and they don't want to go broke.
Right.
That's
You don't want to run out of money.
that's that's sort of like 1A and 1B with most people. And
Yeah.
if you can make that happen, then if we want to get into maybe layering some tax strategy and long-term care and legacy planning, risk planning, and different things like that, inflation hedging, those are all things that we can do. But
Sure.
first of all, we've got to establish a plan that makes sure you're going to get a paycheck throughout retirement, whenever that may start, and that you don't go broke.
Yeah.
And that's
Nobody
sort of where we
wants
have to start.
Yeah, Tony, nobody wants their bank account to hit zero before their blood pressure does. Right? I've said that before. I'll say it again. Our old pal Tom Lowry from Georgia used to tell me, he said, Tony, you don't want your bank account to hit zero before your blood pressure does. I'll never forget that. And he was
Oh,
right.
a lot of truth. A lot of
Yeah,
truth to that, my
people are
friend.
afraid of running out of money. So
Yeah.
4% is a starting point, not a guarantee. We've talked about a lot today.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is to figure out what the right amount for you to withdraw in retirement, or what's the right amount for you to make sure you're not going to run out of money. The answer is work with a trusted financial professional. Think about a lot of the things we talked about today and have a plan that incorporates it. How can our listeners out there get a hold of you and your team to set up that plan?
Well, again, Tony, they can go to arobertsassociates.com, and there's ways to link into us through our website. It's got all of our contact information, phone numbers, email addresses, and everything else like that. Go to email info@abundantretirementplanning.com, info@abundantretirementplanning.com. Call us toll free, 888-955-3665. Again, 888-955-3665. You can text me. My individual private text right into my desktop is 502-632-3339. Again, 502-632-3339. So there's a lot of different ways that you can contact many of us here at the firm. And then once we hear from you, what we usually do, Tony, is we set up a couple of meetings to where we sit down. No fees, no cost or anything like that. Let's sit down. Let's listen to each other, get an idea of where you are, where you're trying to get to, see if we can help you or not. If we can, then we'll take your data, start building out some models, see if any of that stuff makes sense. And then from there, we'll sit down and say, hey, look, does maybe forming a more formal relationship, is that in the cards? And if so, then let's see what that looks like moving forward.
Excellent. Well, that's great that you offer that no charge, no obligation consultation. And good show today, talking about what the right amount is to withdraw in retirement. Tony, great show. Listeners and viewers, thanks for tuning in. That does it for today's episode of Abundant Retirement with our host, Tony Roberts.